Vlog channel restart, episode 50, take 1,000. Keep trying to do this, never actually push publish, but we're in such a weird position of flux right now that I was like, it almost makes sense to like document the moment, like where we're at. And yesterday was extremely like emotional for me in a stupid way. I'll show you why. We'll start there. Last year we started a card shop, and the card shop is doing pretty well. So we expanded the front room into a card shop, and as such, we're getting better distribution, and it makes sense to do more stuff with that. And, you know, the hobby and event space has changed so much in the Nerf sphere that it's like all very, it's tough. It's tough to admit that I guess like things are changing and you have to change with them, and you can't hold on to the past forever, which is just frustrating. So we have all these storage rooms. The storage rooms previously housed all of the inventory for Blaster Barn and Foam Pro Shop, and those web stores, those aspects of the business are doing fine. I mean, they're fine. Blaster Barn is in this weird period where it needs to be reshuffled and recalibrated. There's a viability to selling vintage and desirable shells and blasters and oddities from the hobby that just makes sense, especially as a centralized hub. And we spent a lot of time on the website making sure that it was this like searchable thing. And we've shipped, when I shut the website down temporarily, it was like just south of 6,000. So somewhere around 5,800 orders. And when I think about that number, I'm like, wow, that's at least 5,000 people who participated in the hobby, who had a meaningful interaction with these toys, and we got to supply them with something either from their childhood or for a specific integration or a project. And that's so cool. It's so satisfying. But there would be days throughout the last year where, you know, I'd call Pat and we'd come in and we'd be like, okay, we have like a dozen Blaster Barn orders from the weekend that we need to ship. What is it? And at least half of them would be like this part, this Greebly, or this thing that Jackson Chicken integrated before he left us, where he basically set a bunch of this quote unquote project grade style stuff on sale. What a project grade blaster is like let's say it's a barricade that I modified in 2012 that I never finished, or that we found at a thrift store, a Strife that, you know, didn't have a rev switch or something along that line. It's like the kind of thing that's like perfect if that's the exact thing that you need. But it's like grandpa's wood block that he's held on to for like 30 years, right? Like, when are you gonna need an exactly 2¼ inch by 3 inch wood block? Well, never. And if you do need it, you'll just make it. But, you know, if you happen to need exactly that, it's like, oh my God, I have the thing. So it's cool. It's great that we got to do that. But the logistics of that, the part that people don't take into account when they're thinking about like, I'm going to do a Blaster Barn. Because I've had so many people message me and be like, I'm going to start my own Blaster Barn for my local hobby, for my local community. And if you're doing it as like a swap meet thing, if it's inventory that lives in your garage and you have no cost of holding goods and you just take it to your locals, like your equivalent of the SCNC, and you take it back, bravo, perfect. You're the parts repository for your community. I wish everybody had one. But the overhead is what started just like driving us up a wall. There would be orders. The order would be $5. The shipping on that order would be $7. Pat and I would come in, and this is amidst all the other things we're doing for the business, but we'd cut out some time, maybe even take an hour or two out of our weekends. We'd come in, we'd bag it, we'd tag it, we'd label it, we'd ship it. And you think about it and you're like, wow, it was a $4 order with $7 in shipping. That's an $11 order. We should be happy about that. But it's a thing that, you know, we bought at End War for $2 and listed for $4. We spent $6 shipping it. The box that we put it in cost us 80 cents from Uline. And then when you factor in like our time and the label maker, like we're sitting there and we're like, Pat, did you and I just do 10 minutes of work hunting for this thing bubble wrapping it, packing it, and doing it. And by the time it was said and done, we just chopped 30 cents. And so it's clear that that needs to have a complete overhaul to continue being a valuable thing that we can do for the hobby. And in doing so, like, it's only as valuable to the hobby as it is meaningful and relevant for us to do for ourselves. So what that looked like yesterday when we came to this difficult realization, we'll come back to the super cool hangout couches, we started just clearing out. But the process of clearing and sorting and shuffling is destructive. So if you remember what this used to look like, and maybe you don't, we've got bins on this. These are sortable. Then we've got these racks here, which are a nightmare. And then we completely cleared out this room. Well, we tried. It's not finished yet. We started clearing out this room of our blaster barn, because this was all blaster barn and now it's empty shelves. And the reason for that is, we're starting to support these other games, which are going very well, but like we just need room. We need room that isn't on the floor of the business for things like One Piece and expanded Lorcana. And then this is a me mistake. I shouldn't have done this, but I did this. Our distributor was like, if you guys want big boy Magic allocations, you have to place a big boy order. And I was like, okay, great. And I was waiting for the moment that we could make a big boy order so that we could start getting real allocations for stuff like that. And I'll show you again because it's just hilarious. The first thing that popped up that I was like, oh my gosh, this could be a profitable business decision was he was like, I'll give you as many Bloomborough Commander decks as you want. And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, give us $10,000 in Bloomborough Commander decks. Thinking to myself, we're going to make so much money on these Bloomborough Commander decks. The Bloomborough Commander decks are some of the best ones that have ever been made. And in addition to that, they're selling for $30 more than the distributor price that we're getting. Slam dunk, home run. And turns out everybody else had the same idea. And everybody bought the reprint of the Bloomborough Commander decks, and there were a ton of them, and it flooded the market, and all of a sudden, I have $10,000 in Bloomborough Commander decks that are worth about $9,500. And you wind up in the same problem that Blaster Barn had, where it's like, okay, like I could sell them, and I could take a loss, and I'll only lose $500, and that'll be okay. This isn't a huge misstep. Everything's going to be fine. And then you remember, you're like, I'm going to pay 10% in TCG player fees, 13% in eBay fees. I'm going to pay another $2 in box and $10 in shipping label for each and every one of these things. And by the time I'm said and done, this is actually going to be closer to a $2,500 mistake. So instead, we batten down the hatches and we're just sitting on them. We're just sitting on the Bloomborough Commander decks and hoping it gets better, guys. Time will tell. So anyway, in the process of clearing everything out, we have a massive donation going. I'll be making a video on the main channel pretty soon, kind of discussing some of our infrastructural changes and then offering to anybody in the Central Florida area if they want to come pick up some projects. If you have always wanted to do a big shell integration, like I couldn't bring myself to throw it out. I have a gorgeous Rapid Strike Centurion shell integration that's painted, primed, sanded, and integrated. Like, the epoxy work is awesome. I'm like, I can't throw this away. But neither is, it's just so clear that the state of the hobby, and also the state of content about the hobby, which is nobody's fault, has just shifted dramatically. And I don't know what that's going to mean from a content strategy, but, like the idea of spending an entire week making a Rapid Strike Centurion integration on top of all the other things that we have to do for work, on top of running the shop, on top of making the phone calls and dealing with clients and prepping for Toy Fair, just sounds impossible to me. And it would be like maybe worth the sacrifice and staying up until 2 a.m. every night to do it if I knew that that video would get 100,000 hits. And 10 years ago, you could do that. You knew that it would get 100,000 hits and that it would pay not necessarily for the effort, but it almost justified the time. It felt like a more worthwhile endeavor. And 10 years ago on YouTube, 100,000 clicks would, you knew you'd make a couple $100 making that video, which justifies, the $50 in epoxy and the $40 in automotive paint and the shells and the work and the, yada, yada, yada. And it was a blast. And then you could use it. Whereas now, I don't know of any events that are running regularly where you would want a Centurion Rapid Strike. It seems like everything is aftermarket. Maybe we did some things too well past track. Yada, yada, yada. So what that ends up leading to is we've destroyed the store, because the process of reorganizing anything is just complete chaos. And I'm making this video at 11 a.m. on Friday. This is what my store looks like. I have to run Friday Night Magic starting at 6 o'clock with my buddies. This is our storefront. There's the register, and then I've completely gutted the inventory shelf to put it in there to be backroom inventory. Pat's at IKEA right now buying a shelf that'll become the new inventory, and then we'll regurgitate our standing card game inventory onto there. Is this a resolution video? No, it's an absolution video. I don't know. It's an admittance. Maybe it's a memory. Maybe this is me locking this away from me in the future so that I'll feel less bad about it. So the bottom line is, through that entire process, this is a 12-minute video, I come across this. And for those of you that don't know, this is a snap. How this works is you put a CPVC barrel with a PVC coupler into the front with a single dart loaded, preferably a homemade dart, because we're cool like that. The handle is completely fallen off. This was set with screws into a block of pine. Welcome to the dirty South. This is also pine, so it's just not great. But you would prime it like this. This is what we call the clothespin trigger. And if it had a grip, you would pull the clothespin trigger, it would release a sear in here, and a massive spring would push that plunger forward, pop of air comes out, and the dart fires. It just broke. Maybe this is trash now. I can fix it. There's our sear, which pops into this. The whole thing's held together with epoxy, nails, ramps, love. This is from the era before 3D printing. And so as we were going through things yesterday, I took a bunch of stuff out of the back rooms. I took stuff that was on Blaster Barn's inventory. I took stuff that wasn't on Blaster Barn's inventory. I set aside some precious memories and builds that I really loved. And then we started putting together a donation pile. We started putting together a fire sale eBay pile. And then we started putting together just a genuine dumpster pile. And on a silly emotional level, I will tell you, I picked this up, put it in the trash pile, picked it back up, held it for 10 minutes thinking about it, put it back in the trash pile, picked it up, set it in the donation pile, picked it up, put it in a bin, and resolved that I'm going to put it in the attic of this place and never think about it again. In some sort of romance where maybe someday I'll need a homemade Nerf blaster from this time gone by, and I can go into the attic and dig it out John Wick style with my sledgehammer. I don't know. It feels like, on a personal level, I love the hobby. And I love making content about the hobby. But the industry is changing so much, and the hobby is changing so much. The biggest and best Nerf events right now are charging money. It's hundreds of dollars to attend Nerf events now, which is something that I wasn't ever really interested in when this was all a grassroots campus thing. And the one time I tried to be maybe we could make End War better, I'll charge $15. We got crucified for it. It's just, much like the blaster, I feel like I've picked up and put down and thrown away and then pulled out of the trash my my memories of like the golden age of the hobby when we were still making our own stuff and slinging Steffens at one another from 80 feet in open fields, getting sunburned and eating crappy food. Like, I know that's silly and kind of stupid, but like it feels like if I throw away the snap, I'm throwing away those memories, and that's not how it works. That it's fine. But I'm like bartering with myself and my camera phone now. That like I think it just feels like if I throw the snap away, then you know, we're just never going back. And that's how time works. And, you know, maybe it's even a little bit my fault. How funny is that? Anyway, hell of a return to the vlogging format. We'll see what comes of it. Hopefully we keep doing it this year. That's something that I kind of want to do. I want to get back to making videos that I really enjoy, that like impact a community in a meaningful and positive way. And largely because of where the industry has been at, and largely because of the opportunities and availability over the past year or so, year and change. I mean, the industry has turtled. That's more evident to those of us that interact with it in a professional capacity than those who might just be, you know, watching from a pure fan hobby perspective. But it's definitely trickled down. There has not been a lot of exciting release, new stuff to talk about. And, you know, I mean, I gotta go to some events that aren't end war or aren't trade shows. We'll figure it out. Anyway, Happy New Year, guys. I'll throw the snap in the attic. Don't worry about me. See you in the next one.